Well, thanks for staying tuned to ADB and Television. It's time now to get straight into the conversations tailored around headline stories and other issues in the news. Joining me in the studio this morning to lend his thoughts to it is a public affairs analyst and social commentator, Mr. Moses Idika. Good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. My pleasure.
Now, let's get straight into the conversations, particularly from the angle of coalitions ahead of the 2027 election. Yesterday at the Shehu Musa Yar'Adua Center in the FCT, we saw a convergence of opposition leaders led by the former Senate President, Senator David Mark, alongside ex-Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, and quite prominently, Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate, Peter Obi. It almost seems as though it's now official. The ADC has been adopted as the platform to challenge the APC going into 2027. What do you make about the official interim EXCO meeting?
I think it's a good development because it will now make the conversation more robust ahead of 2027 general elections. And over the past few months, there have been all manner of speculations: who is going to go, who is going on what platform. We'll see the crisis in Labour Party, we'll see the crisis in PDP, the two major opposition political parties. SDP, they tried it, it didn't work, and so I think that the pictures are getting clearer of what the 2027 general election is going to be. And it's like history repeating itself now, because in 2014, it started like this when APC applied to register, and then all manner of things were thrown at them by the then ruling People's Democratic Party. You notice that I think maybe it was just like a red herring. They tried to divert attention of the government by focusing on the proposed ADA, and a lot of things went into the ADA. They had some issues with INEC. Then suddenly they are unveiling the ADC. So I think the race is starting, even though I understand that the electoral guidelines, have not said that we should start campaigning. But of course, everyone in government is talking about 2027. The president is already getting endorsement from left, right, and center. So I think, unfortunately, campaigns are starting through the back door, and the downside of it is that governance may now be relegated to the background while people bicker over the next election. But with the unveiling of the ADC yesterday, it means that the picture is clearer now, and the actors, Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar, David Mark, El-Rufai, Rotimi Amechi, major politicians. And the irony of it is that all of these persons at one point or another, they were all members of the PDP before they diverged. So it's the gathering of usual faces, but then we don't know who is going to be what. Just like David Mark and Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, they are the interim leaders of the party, but we do not have the clear picture of who is going to be what, who is going to be the presidential candidate, who is going to be the running mate. But that is now the next stage. I think they have gotten the platform now. The next stage is the politicking of who holds what.
And now when you see defections like this and a merger is formed, there are always a wide array of interest. Particularly, it's from the difference in reportage as the party's position on this coalition. Some reports say that the founding chairman of the party, Chief Ralph Nwosu, has tendered his resignation and is stepping aside for Senator David Mark and Aregbesola to lead the party. Others are capturing that there is now a faction within the ADC, some NWC members who are kicking against this alleged takeover of the party. For you, what do you make of this difference in reportage?
Well, I think, as journalists, people always view stories from different angles. You may report from the angle of a new beginning. You may also report from the angle of well, these people have suddenly taken over the party. But I also think that the members of the National Working Committee of the ADC would be happy that finally their party is on the front burner. And over the, I know that most political parties have 4-year tenure for their elected officials, and from all indications, I think also that the tenure of those ones that were there may have elapsed, or even if it didn't elapse, it is an opportunity for the ADC. So if anyone within the ADC is kicking against using the ADC now, because it has just become a special purpose vehicle for these politicians, if anyone is kicking against it, then perhaps it may be the hand of Esau and
the voice of Jacob.
And voice of Jacob. So I believe that there is no disagreement within the ADC now, because for this number of politicians, experienced politicians, to unveil ADC as a platform, I believe that all the I's may have been dotted and all the T's crossed, because they went through Amechi, Atiku, El-Rufai, they went through this in 2014. They know what the government could do. They know what areas that legal issues could come up from. I'm sure they must have plugged those holes. They must have plugged those. So if anybody is saying anything, even at state level, I don't think it's going to hold water. So I think the ADC, they are united. Of course, I read the place where that says that the national chairman, the former national chairman, and the former national secretary, they all tendered their resignation. And I do not think that someone in the person of Senator David Mark would come in and then suddenly just take over without having tidied up.
Done the due consultations.
Yes, because if you see the way he left the Senate, it's a man who carries himself well. He doesn't want to be embarrassed, you know. So I believe there is no crisis in ADC.
Now let's talk about his person. You've already given him quite the commendations and compliments this morning. He was, however, very critical of the current administration under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He says Nigeria is turning away from renewed hope into renewed hopelessness. He also called the way of governance a civil dictatorship. What do you make of these comments?
Well, Senator David Mark, he's been there. Of course, he knows what dictatorship is. He was part of the dictatorship earlier. And so he should know when somebody or when a government is becoming dictatorial. Because dictatorship, basically, they want to muzzle all dissenting voices. And if you look at the current government, there is that penchant to always not take kindly to anyone who says something different from what the government may want you to say. Then secondly, Senator Mark is coming from Benue State, a state that is awash with blood of innocent citizens. I mean, so I do not expect him to robe the president in very glowing agbada and all that. So it's not surprising. However, Nigeria as a country, like we always say, belongs to all Nigerians. And every Nigerian, wherever you come from, wherever you live, deserve to live a good life within the law. Every Nigerian deserves the rights. It's imbued. It's the fundamental right to life. It's a fundamental right to exist. And when you exist, it means that you are basically sure of your next step. We know people die, things happen, people fall sick, but you should expect that this is my house. I'm going to my workplace. When I'm coming back, I should still come back to my house. But in Nigeria, the level of uncertainty is that when you go out with prayers. When you come in, you thank God you've come in. You wake up the next morning. We know that God is all and all, but the level of uncertainty is that you do not know that if you wake up in the house you slept in the previous night. That's the level of uncertainty in Nigeria, especially as it concerns the economy and security. So any right-thinking Nigerian would always want to talk to the government in that direction, so it is not surprising.
Now, Minister Festus Keyamo has been one of those very vocal, and he's responded to the coalition comments. He's saying that the emergence of this coalition, as against popular opinion, is making the ruling party even stronger. What do you deduce from these comments?
As an official of the government, every appointee of President Bola Tinubu of today, every member of the APC today, every official of the APC is now duty bound to puncture holes in whatever the members of the opposition coalition is saying, or to anyone that is opposed to the government. So it can't be surprising. If he didn't say that, first of Keyamo didn't say that, then he may not be doing his job as the Minister of Aviation. So I think that it's a familiar terrain where everything your opponent says is not good at all. I listening to some officials of the government saying that this person has no credibility, this person has no integrity, this person has been there. But then when you look at the configuration of the government, what is the difference between those people you are defending and those people you are maligning out there? And then the whole of this thing, it boils down to governance. And how does governance reflect on the life of an average Nigerian? Are you better fed today than you were 10 years, 15 years ago? Is your life better? Is the education system better? Is the health system better? Are the roads better? Is power supply better? Do we have more Nigerians now in the formal economy? Do we have more Nigerians now, able to pay school fees of their children? So when you go to any household in Nigeria, average household, everybody cannot be an elite, everybody cannot be in government, everybody cannot be a CEO of a multinational company, but the average person, the teacher on the street, the keke driver, the Okada rider, the artisan who does hair, the organizer on the road. So what is the situation of these persons? Because they can actually live well within their means. They don't have to drive big cars, but they can actually eat good meal, go to their work, and feel that, yes, I am in my country and I am working hard. Of course, Nigerians are some of the most hopeful persons God ever created. If a Nigerian has something he or she is doing, he or she is hopeful that tomorrow is going to be better. But in Nigeria of today, is that hope there? So that is the situation.
Well, moving away from this issue, let's look at the second issue in the news. Part of the coalition gaining momentum is gaining momentum off the back that certain parties are losing quite the number of bigwigs. One of such parties is the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. In the wake of the coalition and the unveiling of ADC, the PDP is now threatening sanctions against members who are said to be demarketing the party. Now, the challenge here is that the PDP has been able to take action against the likes of Senator Dino Melaye, but have failed to do such when you look at the activities that have been alleged as anti-party activities by other prominent PDP members who claim to be the party's mainstay. What do you make of this threats to sanction party members who are moving to the coalition or demarketing the PDP?
Well, the party, when you look at the party constitutions, almost all the political parties, they have anti-party is like a capital punishment for any member of the party, because you cannot be in a boat and rock same boat. So if you're a member of the PDP, you remain faithful to PDP, you work for the progress of the PDP. Now, when you are talking about coalition, yes, the circumstances that we find ourselves as Nigerians today is that there is that possibility that if politicians don't work together across political divides, across political parties, it may be very, very difficult to unseat the government. For example, in 2023 general elections, you find out that the vote of Mr. P2B and Atiku Abubakar is like twice the vote that the president used to win. So that is what division causes. So now, good enough, the PDP, a few days ago, they finally resolved the crisis plaguing them in the office of the National Secretary of the party, where they reaffirmed Senator Samuel Anyanwu as the National Secretary of the party. And I think it's timely because the party can now move forward. In moving forward, everybody that had issues earlier, they will now come together. So it is after this proper reconciliation is done, that is when the party can sanction anybody. But before now, the party was practically factionalized. A faction led by the governor for your state, alongside Governor Peter Mbah of Enugu State, and another faction that is alleged to be funded by, supported by the FCC minister, who is still a valid member of the party, who is still a respected member of the party. So now, it is now time for the party to come together and say, this is what we have to do. And then it is after they have reconciled all warring factions within the party, then if they now agree to work together, should anyone now go outside the agreement, that is when the party can sanction. Because as at now, the party is not strong enough to sanction anybody.
Well, quite interesting takes there. Moving away from party politics, let's talk about what many are describing as a legislative face-off between the upper and lower chambers in the National Assembly. News making the rounds is that the House of Representatives have expressed quite displeasure over a certain delay by the Senate in attending to 146 concurrence bills. They're also vowing a tit-for-tat approach when the Senate forwards bills for concurrence to the Green Chambers. Is it part of the normal circumstance, or do you see a certain issue here with this legislative face-off?
It's not even a face-off per se, because, you know, every single law that is made in the National Assembly, it said that an act of the National Assembly. And the National Assembly actually has two chambers, and none of the chamber is superior to the other. The Senate is not superior to the House of Representatives, and the House of Representatives is not superior to the Senate. But it is calibrated that way so that there will be broader representation of Nigeria and all sections of Nigeria. And the way that's why we have, they call it bicameral legislature, so that if you are not represented in this form, you are represented in this form. If your local government, every local government falls within one senatorial district, but not every community falls, you understand. So now it's like they broke it down. So now, coming to what is happening, each time a bill originates from the Senate, they do their public hearing, go through third reading, and then it's passed. When it is now passed, it's sent to the House of Representatives. There is now a joint committee where they will harmonize, just in case sometimes there may be two similar bills going on, one in the Senate, one in the House of Reps. So they harmonize. And when they harmonize, they look at it clause by clause. It is then that it can then be sent to the clerk to the National Assembly, can now convey such bill to the presidency as an act of the Assembly. So, but of course we have all manner of bureaucratic bottlenecks in both chambers. They have similar committees that work on, but In the House, there is rules and business. In Senate, there is also rules and business. And it is the duty of these two committees to always come together and look at every bill and see if there is overlap here, because those overlaps, typographical errors and some, fundamental issues that can deny assent to those bills. So now, it is after they have concurrently, jointly agreed that this is a bill, they can now have a clean copy. So I think that it may just be one of the bureaucratic issues that come up. There is no time the House can face off with the Senate, and the Senate can't face off because it's like you are fighting yourself. They are one body. They can't progress without. You realize that even when the president sends name for confirmation in the president also writes to the House, to the Speaker. As he's writing to the President of the Senate, he's writing to the Speaker, because it is one House, and they must agree before such things, any approval is gotten. So it's something that I'm sure will be resolved in a matter of days, because there is no basis for confrontation.
Let me get your thoughts on this state creation bill, because it's one of those prominent bills that's also been discussed, and we hear it's also at zonal hearing. There's a debate for the creation of 46 new states, 117 new local government areas. One of the proponents for one of such state creations is Senator Ned Woko, who has been pioneering and clamoring for the creation of the Anioma state. Many talk about where we are now, saying that some of the states already existing lack self-sustenance. They depend largely on federal allocation. Where does this put this conversation on creation of 46 new states and 117 new local government areas?
Yes, there may be need for creation of some new states. Certainly not 46. Certainly not 46. But you see this argument that people make about some state not being sustainable and all that. It doesn't really make sense, because there's no data to back it up. What we have in Nigeria is that our fiscal policies are such that it's anti-Nigeria, because it's not done in a way that people can, be accountable. As we speak today, Nigeria does not know how much crude we produce. They say we are hovering, OPEC says we should produce 2 million barrels per day. But when you take your mind back to some few months back, when the federal government, Rivers State government, and other agencies were going around uprooting pipes that were joined to the main pipes that the oil facilities used to, bring up the crude, you find out that there may be more oil going out than coming in. And of course, that offshore exploration is the big thing. There is a facility called the Bonga oil field. It's like the second largest anywhere on the planet, that is in the high seas. And I'm sure that Nigeria as a country does not know how much oil is taken from that place, because we have refused to modernize extractive industry. Extractive industry in all other places, every drop of crude can be accounted for with technology. You see Nigeria, that you see the crisis in Zamfara State and other places. In my community in Ebonyi State, there are mining sites everywhere. Nobody can tell you what they will say. They are mining lead there, but you don't know, are they actually mining lead? What else are they taking away from that place? So the fact that Nigeria as a country is unable to account for its own resources is what has made a lot of states almost insolvent, not because they are too small or they lack resources to sustain themselves. Agriculture alone, look at all the states in Nigeria, that most land in Nigeria are arable lands. But you find out that no state has real investment in agriculture. when Nigerian government officials tell people to go back to farm, they are talking about using hoe and knife to go back to farm, subsistence farming. You can barely feed yourself. All over the world, agriculture is mechanized. So when you mechanize agriculture, you may not need 1,000 persons going into farming. You may just need 50 farmers. One farmer can farm half the land in Lafia, and then he or she will produce. There will be a lot of tax paid to the government and a lot of employment generated, and that is how economies are built. So when people say that too many states, no, there may not be too many. Like I said earlier, they may not create 46 states, but I know that places like Southeast have been agitating that there should be additional states. I know that some other regions too, there could be need for that. In Delta State, for example, the Anioma that we are talking about is bigger than Bayelsa State. And why can't it be created?
Now, the challenge with this is it also takes its effect on the National Assembly. This restructuring would ensure that there will be now 3 senators from each of the states that are now agreed to be created. There will be members of the House of Representatives as well. There will be new governors, new state legislatures. Is this more opportunities or more bureaucratic hurdles to surmount?
It's not. Recall that before 1996, when Osun, Ebonyi, and some other states were, Ekiti, Osun was created in 1991. When these other states were created, people were also expressing fear that this, but when Osun came out from old Oyo State and Ekiti came out from old Ondo State, today, everybody from Ekiti feels proud that he's from Ekiti, and Ekiti is making progress, Ondo is making progress, Enugu is making progress, Ebonyi is making progress. So I think that what should be done is that we should reorganize how the emoluments that go to, all these public officials. If you look at, people always talk about the National Assembly, but you haven't looked at the fact that we have 774 local governments, and all those local governments, they have a chairman who probably goes with a Prado. That is 774 Prado vehicles. You have a vice chairman, perhaps, who goes with maybe a Camry. You understand? You have 700 plus. Now you have states that have some states have as many as 40 commissioners, 45 commissioners. Governors have SAs, like 20 SAs. In my states then, there was a time the governor appointed 4,500 technical assistants. They call them they are senior technical assistants, and they are technical assistants, STAs and TAs. So these are what is wrong with the system, not number of the seats in the National Assembly that will come. It is the duplication of, you have SA on mineral resources, you have SA on petroleum for states that have such, you have SA on domestic affairs, you have SA on governor's office, you still have commissioner for special duties. So when you look at all this, you find out that the resources that go to the states, the resources that go to the federal government, they all fritter away on recurrent expenditure on, getting all these government officials to be comfortable. And mind you, a local government chairman has SAs. So in the office of the chairman of a local government, you have at least 20 other staff times 774. You understand? In the National Assembly, they have 5 aides that is properly payrolled by the National Assembly Service Commission. You have the SLA, you have the LA1, you have the secretary, you have the PA, and a driver or something. 5 persons is clear. And in the National Assembly, for the 4-year term, every lawmaker is entitled to a single car. every lawmaker in the National Assembly is entitled to a single car. But in the state, a commissioner has his official car, he has the backup, he has a car for his PA, and so this is, we must, if we have to look at our fiscal planning policy, we have to look at how much actually goes into governance and how much actually goes into servicing human beings. So when you create, as you are creating more state, you should be able to make the fiscal policies so accountable that we can know that, okay, if you are going to the National Assembly, you now have additional 3 senators, well, this is their emolument, and it has to stay that way, so that you know in that 4 years, this is, because that's what happens in other places. You know the salary of a senator, the salary of a lawmaker, the salary of a governor. Recall that in this same Nigeria, we have what we call security votes,
which still goes to the governors.
Which goes to the governors, and no, some states has as high as 1 billion naira security votes, and it's not accounted for. And you don't know what that money is meant for. Yet there is Ministry of Internal Security, there is vote for police, there is vote for DSS, there is vote for NDLEA, all the security agencies. Yet there is still another security vote that we are told the governor has that humongous amount of money to spend at his discretion. So if we want to look at this, let us look at it holistically.
Well, quite interesting takes there. Let's move away from the legislature and talk about the economy. Now, economic experts have quite disagreed with the International Monetary Fund, IMF. This is in line with the revised GDP growth forecast for Nigeria. The IMF has talked about how Nigeria is thriving based on its domestic oil production, credits to Dangote refinery. It has also cited a strong service economy of the country, and it has revised the projected forecast and said that Nigeria is expected to experience a 3.4 to a 3.5% GDP growth in 2025. Now, economic experts are begging to differ, citing the exchange rate, citing the challenges with Nigeria's 2024 and 2025 budget, and asking the true intentions of the IMF in its newly released forecast. I don't know where you stand in this debate.
Well, I haven't really got a very clear picture of the forecast, but I also know that Nigeria is a country that we see the figures, but we don't see the effects. It doesn't matter what IMF or any of the Bretton Woods institutions say about Nigeria. Nigeria is in crisis. In the last 2 years, the government has borrowed so much money that they are not sure of how it can be serviced, not even repaid. Because every year, our projections are usually based on oil earning. Until an economy produces at least 25% of what it consumes, it can't really make projections and stand by them. Look at, just last week, the National Assembly extended the implementation of the 2024 budget. For the first time in our history, we are practically running 2 budget
cycles
concurrently. And if you look at government contractors today, they will tell you that they haven't got a dime since November 2024. So what is going on? Where is the growth coming from? And because these things, in my thinking, I'm not an economist, but I think they are cosmetics. Because until you can project how much you are going to buy a sachet of detergent tomorrow, you don't know, you can't say. You bought a sachet yesterday for 10 naira, you go to the market, and so what you bought yesterday was old stock. So we just got new stock, it's now 15 naira. And it keeps happening. You can't make such projections. In other climes, consumer goods are not that unstable. What is usually unstable is perhaps oil prices because it's internationally determined, but because we don't produce here. And the dollar keeps, the naira keeps fluctuating against major currencies. So where are they generating these figures from? Because Nigerians on the streets are still complaining that they are hungrier now. In the last few months, yes, some prices of staple food like rice and beans may have dropped, but the purchasing power also dropped alongside. So it's not that the price for bag of rice has dropped. Can you buy a bag of rice even with the drop price? You are still buying in cups and noodles. So the whole economic outlook and projections, both from the government and from the IMF, they don't add up, and that is why they keep conflicting. I assure you that in the next few months, the government will still go back to the National Assembly for approval of another loan, and the cycle keeps, we keep running around in the circle. So I think that both the IMF and also, I haven't really seen a country that overcame its challenges, following IMF recommendations. And so, personally, I do not take IMF serious, because IMF is just a financial institution that is doing business with third world countries, and IMF doesn't predict anything for US. When you are looking at the statistics and the figures, they rely on their own Standard and Poor's and some of these, they are, homegrown, solutions.
Now,
So they don't rely on IMF.
Talking about that, it's important to also note for our viewing public that they have a regular consultation with Nigeria. In fact, the consultation has been numbered. In the most recent recommendations as captured in Article 4 of the IMF consultations with Nigeria, talking about the IMF's executive board now, they also strongly recommended that the federal government reviews its 2025 budget, urging Nigeria to tackle its approach on food security and fragility. I know you've said that other countries do not rely on them, but how much of a strong recommendation is this?
Nigeria as a country shouldn't wait for IMF to tell us. When you are talking about our food security, what has caused our food security? Is it because our soil has stopped, nourishing plants? No. It's because majorly we have failed to mechanize our agriculture. So we are unable to actually feed ourselves. Secondly, it is because we have failed to even protect the subsistent farmer who goes to plow maybe a quarter of hectare of a land, to feed himself and his family. We can't protect them. Let me give you an example. There's this produce, ginger. Ginger, Southern Kaduna is one of the best producers of ginger anywhere in the world. Nigerian ginger is reputed to be some of the best anywhere. But today, you can't find ginger in the Nigerian market. Why? Because the communities that produce ginger in Southern Kaduna, they have been practically wiped out by insurgents, by so-called bandits, by Boko Haram and all that. So it is not, these are not rocket science. IMF saying this, it's stating the obvious. We know that farmers can no longer go to farm. Just a few weeks back, we've been talking about Benue State, and we know that Benue produces a lot of food items, up to pepper. Now, those communities that were ravaged and burnt by these marauding bandits, are you telling me somebody is going to farm there? Nobody is going to farm there. So when you look at it, you find out that we don't have to wait. We know the problem we have, and that is why we keep calling on our government to tackle the issues we know that is plaguing us. Let us leave IMF and the World Bank to their figures, but we know our problem. It's like a light bulb is not on in this building, and we are waiting for someone to watch the clip and say, your studio is not bright enough, when we know that one of the light bulbs is off.
Well, very strong and objective points this morning. We must appreciate you for taking our time to speak on these issues with us this morning.
Thank you very much. Always my